If you're starting in Seattle and only have 1 week of vacation, can the $250 Amtrak Rail Pass actually save you money, or is it just a fun idea that doesn't really pencil out? In this video, that's exactly what gets tested with a real 7-day Seattle itinerary, built around two of the most scenic Amtrak routes in Coach: the Empire Builder from Seattle to Glacier National Park, and the Coast Starlight running down the Pacific Coast toward California. You'll see the full route, what these trips normally cost as regular coach tickets, and how that compares to paying a flat $250 for a pass that gives you up to 10 segments in 30 days once you start using it. By the end, you'll know whether this pass makes financial sense for a 1-week rail adventure out of Seattle, and how many long-distance rides you really need before the numbers start working in your favor. If you're based in Seattle and only have 1 week of vacation, can the $250 Amtrak Rail Pass actually save you money? Or is it just a cool idea that doesn't really add up? In this video, that question gets tested on a real 7-day Seattle itinerary built entirely in coach class around two of Amtrak's most scenic routes out of the Pacific Northwest: the Empire Builder from Seattle to Glacier National Park, and the Coast Starlight running down the west coast toward California. You'll see the full route, how this trip fits into the pass's 10 segments in 30 days rule, what these rides normally cost as regular tickets, and then a straight cost comparison against the flat $250 rail pass price. By the end, you'll know whether the rail pass makes financial sense for a 1-week rail adventure starting in Seattle, and how many long-distance rides you actually need before the math works in your favor. Here's the exact 7-day Seattle itinerary this rail pass is being tested on. The idea is the same as the New York and Chicago trips. Use 2 big long-distance segments in 1 week and handle the rest with flights and hotel nights, just like a normal vacation. On days 1 and 2, I am traveling from Seattle to Glacier National Park on the Empire Builder. On day 1, I board Amtrak's Empire Builder at Seattle's King Street Station and ride overnight in coach toward East Glacier. By day 2, I'm stepping off near Glacier National Park, with the rest of the day to film mountain scenery, lodges, and small-town atmospheres around the park. Day 3 is a full glacier day. Viewpoints, short hikes, and plenty of photos of the Rockies. Late day 3 or early day 4, I fly back to Seattle on a separate ticket so the rail pass only covers the outbound Empire Builder leg, not the return. For days 5 and 6, Seattle to California coast, I am on the Coast Starlight. After a night to reset, day 5 is all about the Coast Starlight, leaving Seattle in coach and heading south along the Pacific Coast toward Oregon or Northern California, depending on where I choose to break the journey. This is the second major long-distance segment on the pass, and provides the classic ocean view footage that people search for when they look up this route. Day 7, Destination City and Return Home. Day 7 is for exploring the destination city, somewhere like Sacramento or the Bay Area, and then flying back to Seattle or onward home. So, just like the other two experiments, the rail pass is doing the heavy lifting on 2 long-distance rides: Seattle to Glacier on the Empire Builder, and Seattle down the coast on the Coast Starlight, while everything else works like a standard 1-week vacation you could realistically copy. Now let's look at what these 2 long-distance trips usually cost without using the rail pass. First is the Empire Builder from Seattle to Glacier National Park. This is a full overnight run into the northern Rockies, and typical coach fares for Seattle to East or West Glacier often land in a band very similar to the Chicago to Glacier example, roughly somewhere in the mid-$100 into the low $200 one way, depending on the time of year and how early you book. Next is the Coast Starlight heading south from Seattle toward Oregon or Northern California. For a long-distance coach segment that covers the classic coastal scenery, Seattle down through Oregon and into Northern California, prices commonly sit in a similar mid-$100 to low $200 one-way range on many dates, again fluctuating with season and demand. So when you combine a Seattle to Glacier trip on the Empire Builder with a Seattle to California coast segment on the Coast Starlight, it's very reasonable to expect a total cash cost in the neighborhood of $300 to $400, plus for these 2 long-distance coach tickets on typical dates. Keep that estimate in mind, because in the next segment it will be compared directly to the flat dollar $250 price of the rail pass to see whether this 1-week Seattle plan actually makes financial sense. Now let's compare those estimated ticket prices to the $250 rail pass on the Seattle itinerary. For this 1-week trip, the pass is covering just 2 long-distance segments. Segment 1. Seattle to Glacier National Park on the Empire Builder. Segment 2. Seattle to the California coast on the Coast Starlight. If you bought those as regular coach tickets, it's very realistic for the combined price to land somewhere around $300 to $400 plus on typical dates, based on what similar Empire Builder and Coast Starlight segments cost from other starting cities in the earlier examples. With the pass, you pay a flat $250, and both rides are simply 2 of your 10 available segments in the 30-day window. That means, even if you only ride these 2 trains during the month, you're often saving tens of dollars up to well over $100 compared with buying individual tickets. Very similar to the savings range you saw on the Chicago 7-day test. And just like in the New York and Chicago versions, the best part is that you still have 8 more segments left. Any additional medium or long ride you add later that month, whether that's another Coast Starlight leg, a Cascades trip, or a quick hop to Portland, stacks even more value on top of savings you've already locked in with this 1-week Seattle adventure. For a traveler starting in Seattle who wants to hit Glacier and the Pacific Coast in a single week, the numbers show that the $250 rail pass isn't just convenient. It can also be a smarter financial choice than paying cash for these 2 long-distance tickets alone. So what does all of this mean if you're thinking about using the $250 rail pass out of Seattle? If you only want a single long-distance ride, maybe just a short taste of the Coast Starlight, the pass is probably more than you need. A single ticket will usually be cheaper on its own. But if your week looks like this itinerary, with 2 big long-distance segments to Glacier National Park on the Empire Builder and down the Pacific Coast on the Coast Starlight, you're already in the range where the cash prices for those tickets can climb into the $300 to $400 plus neighborhood, while the pass caps your rail cost at $250 for both. This Seattle plan is ideal if you are based in or can easily reach Seattle. You want a 1-week trip that combines Glacier NP and classic West Coast rail scenery without committing to a month on the train. You are comfortable traveling in coach and booking your own flights and hotels around the rail segments. In that situation, the rail pass stops being just a novelty and starts looking like a genuinely smart value play. And you still have 8 more segments left to use in the 30-day window for Cascades trips, extra Coast Starlight legs, or another long-distance experiment. If you're comparing options, watch the New York and Chicago versions of this series next to see which home base, East Coast, Midwest, or Pacific Northwest, gives you the best overall value from the $250 Amtrak Rail Pass.